So dear student, if I consider interface plays very important role in Java. By interface, we can support the functionalities of multiple inheritance. While defining any field, I want to consider public, static as well as final. Hello to all, a warm welcome to my new session on interface. I'm Revati from the Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram, First Grade College, Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. So dear student, you may wondering that what is interface? So anyway, it is very important topic we are going to study in this session. But before going to start my session, let's recall the things what I have covered in my previous session. In my previous session, I started with Java, arrays. So what is array? What is the need of array? And how to declare array and how to initialize array we have discussed. But along with that, we discussed the different types of array. So what are the different types of array we are going to have? That is single dimensional array and multi-dimensional array. Along with that, I discussed what is string. So here Java string is nothing but collection of character or sequence of character. Along with that, I discussed some of the methods supported by string and what are the string operation we can able to perform. These are the things I discussed in my last session of this chapter. Now, in my today's session, I'm going to deal with interface. So what is interface? What is the need of interface? All those things we are going to discuss in my today's session. Along with that, internal addition by the compiler. Along with that, I'm going to discuss the relationship between class and interface. That means how classes differ from the interface. Along with that, difference between class as well as interface. Along with that, how to implement interface and how to extend interface. So these are the things I'm going to discuss in my today's session. So what is interface? Here interface is nothing but the blueprint. So it is nothing but the blueprint of a class. That means it includes only fields as well as methods. For that reason, it's termed as interface is nothing but the blueprint of a class that includes static, constant and abstract method. So what is static? That means to invoke interface, I does not require any object, that is static. And what is constant? That is fixed value, as well as abstract method. That means that includes only prototype and body of the method is defined in some other class. Now, the interface in Java is a mechanism to achieve abstraction. So dear student, if I consider interface plays very important role in Java. And to achieve multiple inheritance, we are going to use interface. That means in Java does not support multiple inheritance, and to achieve that we are going to use interface. Along with that, to provide data abstraction, once again we are going to use interface. So what is data abstraction? We are going to provide only the basic functionality to the user, and rest of the things are hidden from the user. That can be done with the help of abstraction. Now, there can be only abstract method in Java interface. That means when I use interface, then I can able to include only abstract method, and where I'm going to write the body of that method in my subprogram. Now, this interface includes only abstract method. It is used to achieve abstraction and multiple inheritance. As I discussed, interface is mainly used to achieve data abstraction as well as multiple inheritance. So, interface can able to have only abstract method and variables, and they cannot able to have method body. For example, think that I want to create interface. For that, I'm going to use the keyword interface and I'll write ABC, and I'm going to write int A comma B, and I'm having abstract method. So this is the way I can able to use interface in Java. So here I'm having only abstract method, and where I'm going to write the body of this method, that is in my sub program, and I'm going to treat this interface as my parent or my super class or super interface. Now let me to consider why use interface. That means what is the need of using interface when I'm having inheritance. So it is used to achieve data abstraction. So it is used to provide data abstraction. So what is data abstraction? We are going to provide only the basic functionalities to the user, and rest of the things are hidden from the user, that can be done by using abstraction. Now, by interface, we can support the functionalities of multiple inheritance. Java does not support multiple inheritance, but we can able to implement multiple inheritance with the help of interface. For these two reasons, we are going to use interface in Java programming language. Now, how to declare interface? So, how can I declare interface? So, dear student, to declare interface, first I want to use the keyword interface. So, I'm going to use the keyword interface. Now, so an interface is declared by using interface keyword, and it provides total abstraction. To provide data hiding, we are going to use interface. Means all the methods in the interface are declared with the empty body. That means whatever the method I'm going to write in my interface, that includes only method name, and body is written in some other class. So with the empty body, and all the fields are public, static, final by default. Now see here, if I consider field declaration int A, then it is treated as public. That means this A is public, and it's of type static as well as it is final. That means I cannot able to modify the values which I declared here. So by default, it's going to convert in the form of public, static as well as final. Now, a class that implements an interface must be implement. So here, think that I'm having interface and interface name is A. Now, I want to implement this interface in some other class. For example, say class name is B, and I'm going to implement interface in my class B. For that reason, I'm going to use the keyword implement and I'm going to write the interface name. So dear student, please make a note here. I'm going to use the interface keyword. Then I'm going to declare fields as well as method. And what kind of fields I can able to declare? That is static, public and final. And what about method? It is abstract method. So method that does not have any body is called abstract method. And if I want to implement this interface in my class, then I'm going to use the keyword implement. So these two keywords you have to remember while writing any interface. Now, how to declare an interface? So, what is the syntax I need to follow while declaring an interface? So, here interface name, okay, then declare the fields and declare the methods as well as it does not contain any body. Now, let me to write the example here that interface example, I'll write int exp. Okay, then I'm going to write public static final ABC, final int ABC, then abstract display and close my interface. Now, I cannot able to create any object to this interface. For that reason, I'm going to implement this interface in some other class. After that, I'm going to create the object for that class. With the help of that class object, I can able to access all the fields as well as methods which is present in my interface. So here, interface includes only two parts, that is field declaration as well as abstract method. So while defining any field, I want to consider public, static as well as final. And while defining any method, I want to take care about it must be abstract method. So what is abstract method here? That is nothing but method that does not have any body. So this is all about how to declare interface. Now, internal addition by the compiler. That means who is responsible for adding static, final, public keywords? That is nothing but the compiler. Usually the users or developers are going to write this code. That is, interface is a keyword, whereas printable is nothing but the interface name. And it is int minimum equal to 5 and I'm having abstract method. And what is my abstract method name? That is print. Now, this is printable Java. Okay, this interface is named as printable Java because my interface name must be my file name. Now, the job of the compiler is to add additional field. See here, interface remains as it is, interface name remains as it is, but the compiler is responsible for adding public static final. So here, interface is capable to hold only public variable, static variable as well as final variable. Along with that, compiler is responsible for placing public keyword as well as abstract keyword. That indicates that this particular method does not have any body, and the body of this method can be implemented in some other class. So this is the internal representation of interface, and it is done by the compiler. Now, the relationship between class and interface. So this is the relationship between class and interface. Okay, if I use class, okay, this is the example for single inheritance. See here, if I'm having class, so this is my super class, okay, and I'm going to acquire all the properties as well as behavior of superclass in my subclass. That means this child class is going to acquire or gather all the properties as well as functionalities as well as behavior of superclass in their subclass. For that, I'm going to use extends keyword. And suppose if I'm having interface and if I want to make use of all the properties as well as functions as well as behavior of interface in my class, in that time I'm going to use the keyword implements. So dear student, please remember here, when I'm having two class, then it is extends. When I'm having interface, then class, then it is implements. That means I'm going to implement all the methods as well as variables which is declared in my interface to my class. Now, if I consider another diagram, here I am having interface and interface. That means there are certain situations I want to make use of all the functions, properties as well as behavior of one interface to another interface. In that situation, it is extends. So dear student, please remember here, when two class want to communicate, then it is extends. When two interface want to communicate, then it is extends. When one interface and one class want to communicate, then in that time it is implements, and these are the keywords. Now, I'm going to have simple example, that is, interface is nothing but the keyword used to implement interface in Java. What is interface name? That is example, and in this interface I'm going to have the method display. And what type of method? It is abstract method because it does not have any body. And where I'm going to write the body for this method? That is in my some other class. See here, inside the class I'm going to write the body for this method. So this is the example for abstract method. Abstract method. Now I want to implement this interface in my class. So this class want to acquire the properties of interface. Suppose if this class A6 want to acquire all the properties of this interface, then I'm going to use the keyword implements. So I'm going to implement example in my class A6, and I'm going to write the method body inside this class. And what is my method name? that is display, and I'm going to write example for interface. After writing body of the method, I'm going to write the main program. Then see here, I'm going to create the object for A6. So what is A6? It's nothing but the class name, and I'm going to term it as subclass. So it is subclass. That means I'm going to create an object for A6, and with the help of object I'm going to call display function. And what is the output of this program? That is example for interface. So this is the way I can able to use interface in Java. Now I'm going to have the difference between class and interface. That means how the class as well as interface differs each other. See here, if I consider class, the member of class can be constant or variable. Suppose if I declare fields or variables in my class, then that can be of type constants as well as variable. And if I consider interface, then it is constant. There is nothing but it is fixed value. And the class definition can contain the code for each of its method. That means in my class, suppose if I use methods, then there itself I'm going to write the body of the method. But if I consider interface, I'm going to declare only abstract method in my interface, and where I'm going to write the body of the method, that is in some other class. It can be initiated by declaring object. That means classes can be initiated by declaring object. But in interface, it's not possible to initiate. But we can able to inherit. That means it cannot be used to declare object. Instead of that, we can able to inherit. Now, it can use various access specifiers like public, static, void. So, it can able to use access specifiers like public, private and protected. But if I consider interface, then it can able to have only public access specifier. So, these are the certain difference between class as well as interface. Now, how can I implement interface? So, dear student, please remember here, when I'm having interface and class, in that time I want to use the keyword implements. See here, I'm having class, then I'm having interface. In that time, I'm going to use the keyword implements. So, a class uses the implement keyword to implement an interface. So, I'm having one interface and one class. Now, I want to implement this interface in my class. In that time, I'm going to use implements keyword. And I'm going to write the code. Now, I'm going to extending interface. So, dear student, when I'm going to use interface keyword, when I'm having two interface. So, remember here, when I'm having two interface, I'm going to use the keyword extends. I'm going to use the keyword extends. And when I'm having interface and class, in that time it is implements. It is implements. And when I'm having class and class, once again it is extends. So, dear student, please remember the difference here. Class and class, in that time it is extends. Interface and class, I'm going to implement interface in my class. And what about interface and interface? Once again, I'm going to extend the interface. So here I'm having interface name int2 and I'm having my first interface int1 and I'm going to extend this int1 in my int2. So this is the way I can able to extend interface in Java program. So dear student, in my today's session, I started with what is interface and what is the need of interface, how to declare interface and how to implement interface as well as how to extend interface. And from the examination point of view, this is also very important topic. And in my next session, I'm going to deal with package. So dear student, don't forget to watch my next session. So dear students, let's meet in the next session with some more new idea as well as some more new example with Java program. Until then, keep watching and keep learning. Thank you.